GetCrack. Wake up, motherfucker.
Very good. As we know, their biggest customers spent a lot on CapEx in the fourth quarter and are going to continue to spend. So we had the upside on revenue and in terms of guidance for the April quarter. But the gross margins were lower, and it's what Caroline was pointing to. When you have a product transition every year and you're ramping up production of a new product, it comes in at lower gross margins.
Yeah.
And that's still happening to them. So they guided the gross margins below expectations for next quarter, indicating they are still getting lower margins on that Blackwell product line. So we had the least anticipated result for this earning, which is the stock could be flat tomorrow, not up 10%, not down 10%.
Yeah, and the stock has been oscillating between gains and losses. And Gil, I just want to bring to you another headline here. The company breaking out sales for those Blackwell chips, saying it accounted for about $11 billion of its revenue in the most recent quarter. Of course, again, we're talking about $40 billion in revenue total, so a bit more here than a quarter of total revenue. NVIDIA also saying, Gil, that this is the fastest product ramp up in the company's history. Talk to me about that $11 billion revenue number for the Blackwell architecture. Are you happy enough with that?
Well, that's a little better than they guided to last quarter, but it does indicate then the sales of the rest of their products declined quarter over quarter. None of that matters. Their customers are going to buy whatever NVIDIA is selling. Their customers right now have more demand than NVIDIA can supply, and it's going to take at least a couple of more quarters for that to catch up. That's why we still are going to have a $4 billion incremental growth into the April quarter from this quarter, because they still haven't caught up to demand. It does look like Microsoft and Amazon on their earnings call talked about catching up in terms of the supply of chips that they're ordering by the middle of the year. So it's more the back half of the year that we're going to have to see if demand materializes. And it's very important that you made the connection to Salesforce. If companies like Salesforce don't see an acceleration of revenue based on AI, then it's going to be very hard to justify continuing the rate of investment in CapEx that we've seen the last couple of years.
I want to go back to that gross margin number for the first quarter, coming in lower than expected, and that idea that this is just the price of getting new products to market and they will start to widen again. Is this the air pocket that so many people were worried about?
It's not an air pocket because it's actually the second or third quarter in a row where gross margins were the soft spot in the results. And if they're still guiding for them to decline as the new product line takes over from the previous product line, then it's more of a concern. It's less of an air pocket.
Okay. Gil, quick question here on what Jensen Huang will likely say on the earnings call. Do you expect to get any clarity on what sales to Chinese customers might look like, given that the Trump administration is thinking about beefing up the current restrictions on sales to China?
Yeah, that question will come up. It's unclear if Jensen Huang's going to answer it, but it is the huge question right now. What did he promise President Trump when he visited him at the White House? President Trump, this administration is worried about China taking the lead in AI. The only way China can take the lead in AI is if they continue to have access to NVIDIA chips. What did President Trump ask Jensen Huang to do in order to prevent that from happening? And what is President Trump and this administration going to carry out in terms of regulation to prevent these chips from getting to China? Mr. Huang's going to get asked about that during the call. It's unclear what he'll be able to say.
Quick, I think last quarter you said demand for Blackwell was insane. This quarter you said it's extraordinary. Those about the same? Is one better than the other?
I would say that my feelings about Blackwell is better today than it was at last quarter. And the reason for that is because we, of course, ramped up into production. We exceeded our target, and the teams did an amazing job. As you recall, we had a hiccup in our design flaw in Blackwell that we found early on last quarter or quarter before that. And we recovered tremendously well, and I'm very proud of the team for that. And so for those reasons, I feel pretty great from an execution perspective. From a demand perspective, you know, DeepSeek was fantastic. It was fantastic because it open sourced the reasoning model that's absolutely world class. just about every AI developer in the world today has either incorporated R1 using, it's called distillation, distilled from R1, or using techniques that have been open sourced out of R1 so that their models could be a lot more capable. Across the world, AI has become better as a result of the last several months. And so I'm excited about that. And the demand for computation, for inference time, for test time scaling, which is one of the reasons why Grace Blackwell NVLink 72 is so exciting. That feature is now more prominent than ever, more demanded than ever. More prominent than ever, more demanded than ever. And I think the demand side of it is more exciting too.
Let me ask you about your China business. You talked on the call about how the percentage of revenue is half what it was before export controls. Does the emergence of DeepSeek, which some have cast as a workaround, some of those restrictions, does it tell us anything about the effectiveness of export controls?
It's hard to tell whether export control is effective. The thing that I can tell you is this. Our percentage revenues in China before export controls is twice as high as it is now. There's a fair amount of competition in China. Export control and otherwise, Huawei, other companies are quite rigorous and very, very competitive. And so I think that ultimately software finds a way. Maybe that's the easiest way of thinking about it. You know, software is always, whether you're developing software for a supercomputer or software for a personal computer or software for a phone or software for a game console, you ultimately make that software work on whatever system that you're targeting, and you create great software. And so that's kind of the beauty of software engineers. They're incredibly innovative and clever in this way. Our architecture is about the flexibility of software, and which is kind of nice. But ultimately here in the United States, if you look at where we are now compared to what is controlled, GB200 is probably something along the lines of 60 times the token generation rate of what is being shipped in China that's currently export controlled.
Okay.
And so the separation of performance is quite high. You know, ultimately, what we know we experience is a great deal of competition there.
The guide was also above, as you mentioned. Now, earlier today, speaking of demand, I was talking to Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. He told me that as of now, if he had more AI resources to sell through AWS, he could sell more. That's kind of the short-term signal of demand that you talked about on the call. Tell me more about the midterm signals that investors should be aware of that give you confidence in the continued demand, the scale-outs of data centers, AI factories, relative to what you've historically seen?
The short-term signal are just our POs and the forecasts. And on top of that, the things that are not forecasted are new startup companies that are spinning off. And some of these are quite famous. And, you know, at the risk of forgetting any of them, I won't mention any of them, but there's some really, really fantastic startups that have come out as a result of new reasoning AI capabilities and, you know, artificial general intelligence capabilities that they have breakthroughs in. And there's several of them that are related to agentic AIs, really exciting companies. And there's several of them related to physical AIs. You know, there's just handfuls of each one of them, and each one of them needs additional compute. And that's, you know, the type of things that Andy talks about, because they need to go to AWS and they have urgent need for more compute right away. And so that's on top of what we already knew to have POs and forecasts and such. The midterm comes from the fact that this year's capital investment for data centers is so much greater than last year's. And of course, we had a very large year last year. We had a great year last year. It stands to reason that with Blackwell and with all the new data centers going online, we're going to have a fairly great year. Now, long term, the thing that's really exciting is we're just at the beginning of the reasoning AI era. You know, this is the time when AI is thinking to itself before it answers a question. Instead of just immediately generating an answer, it'll reason about it, maybe break it down step by step. It'll do maybe some searching in its own mind before it creates and composes a smart answer for you. The amount of computation necessary to do that reasoning process is 100 times more than what we used to do. So if you could imagine, we thought computation, the amount of compute necessary was a lot last year. And then all of a sudden, reasoning AI, DeepSeek was an example of that, ChatGPT 4o is an example of that, Grok 3 reasoning is an example of that. So all of these reasoning AI models now need a lot more compute than what we used to were
let me
expecting.
stop you there,
that puts even more load.
Because some people took DeepSeek to mean actually that you need less compute, right? Because the initial report was that they were doing more with less. But you're saying, in fact, some of what came out of DeepSeek was the opposite, that there's going to be more compute demanded. Unpack that for me.
There are 3 phases in how AI works, how AI is developed largely. Number 1 is pre-training. It's kind of like us going through high school. A lot of basic math, basic language, basic everything. That basic understanding of human knowledge is essential to do what's the next step, which is called post-training. In post-training, you might get human feedback. You know, it's like a teacher showing it to you. We call it reinforcement learning, human feedback. You might practice and do thought experiments. You're just preparing for a test. You're doing a whole lot of practices. We call it reinforcement learning, AI feedback. You could either also do tests and practice, and we call it reinforcement learning, verifiable reward feedback. So now basically it's AIs teaching AIs how to be better AIs. That post-training process is where an enormous amount of innovation is happening right now. A lot of it happened with these reasoning models. And that computation load could be 100 times more than pre-training. And then here comes inference, the reasoning process. Instead of just spewing out an answer, when prompted, it reasons about it. It thinks about how best to answer that question, breaks it down step by step, might even reflect upon it, come up with several versions, pick the best one, and then presents it to you. So the amount of computation that we have to do, even at inference time now, is 100 times more than what we used to do when ChatGPT first came out. And so all of a sudden, the combination of all these ideas, largely related to reinforcement learning and synthetic data generation and reasoning, all of this is just causing compute demand to largely related to reinforcement learning and synthetic data generation and reasoning. All of this is just causing compute demand to go sky high.
Shares just fractionally lower, for something that this heavily watched and this heavily traded. That's something. What does this result mean for AI demand overall, the broader ecosystem? Joining us now is Byron Dieter, partner at Bessemer Venture Partners. Byron, NVIDIA had beats on the top and bottom. The guide was a beat. The margins, low 70s. I guess people can, have a bone to pick with that. But a big question is demand, and demand from the hyperscalers like Amazon. I asked Amazon CEO Andy Jassy about the demand for AI chips earlier today. Here's what he said.
We have a lot of demand for AI right now, and a lot of demand for our instances that have Trainium chips, of NVIDIA chips, AMD chips. And I would tell you that at this stage, and it could change, but at this stage, if we had more capacity than we already have, and we have a lot, but if we had more capacity, we could monetize it.
For NVIDIA, you're saying?
For everything.
For everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think, remember, there's really predominantly been one chip that people have used the first couple years of this revolution around generative AI. I think over time, people are going to use lots of different chips, and how that mix changes, we'll have to see. But I have high confidence that Trainium will be a chip that a lot of people use on top of our platform, in addition to NVIDIA.
So, Byron, is this about the competition between NVIDIA enhancing performance at one end and the hyperscalers trying to enhance the price performance at the other, and that determines where a stock like NVIDIA goes from here, you think?
Great to be back with you, John. Thanks for having me on. And yes, I would break demand into two segments. The first is customer demand at the end pull-through. That's insatiable. And what these results show is that the large model providers, the application providers, can't get enough of the AI-capable chips, and they're still being rate limited, which is almost inconceivable, several quarters into this AI revolution. But the next level is the demand by the hyperscalers of what chips they're providing. So you can think of it as the supply side of the equation for the end customers as well. And that's going to be diversified here in the coming quarters. This 85% market share that NVIDIA's enjoyed is going to come down. And so the question is, does the market growth offset that so that everyone can grow and there'll be many, many winners? Or does this start to erode NVIDIA's market position in the medium and long term? I think Andy and Amazon have played this beautifully. The Trainium chips are getting rave reviews early on, and there's going to be many providers, add in Google and AMD and many pure plays in this mix as well. And this landscape is going to get much more competitive by the back half of this year and into early next year. That will provide a lot more supply capabilities for these hyperscalers and for the end consumers.
So, Byron, what's the takeaway for so many other companies in the ecosystem, including software stocks? It seems to me Andy Jassy saying that demand is pretty strong. These numbers from NVIDIA seem to indicate that right now the demand is pretty strong. That ought to bode well for some companies, no?
I think on many levels, NVIDIA in the short to medium term continues to deliver near perfection. It's an exceptional company, and they've got a backlog of demand that they're still racing to fulfill. It also shows that a number of these companies on the application layer are starting to get real monetization, and they're reaccelerating growth. And there's going to be some tradable opportunities there as they inject AI into their applications. End user benefits start to take hold, and they're going to start to monetize. And so I think we're going to start to see some separation of the application leaders. And then I think we're going to start to see some more beneficiaries in the chip market in what's been a borderline monopoly market for the last many quarters, and that will start to have more beneficiaries and some more tradable signals there as well.
So, I mean, when I hear you talk about that in the public markets for the better part of 2 years, I would argue there's been some exuberance around the AI trade, particularly the so-called picks and shovels, NVIDIA kind of being the poster child, but even some of the AI infrastructure names. Those have been coming off in recent days and recent weeks in public markets. You've seen some pretty big moves to the downside. If you're investing right now to see greater returns in the future, do you invest in the application layer? What's the next piece of this where you could see those winners and losers emerge more meaningfully?
Well, the biggest pure plays in AI are still in the private markets. That's the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, even the Databricks of the world, who are huge beneficiaries here. That's the next wave that people are waiting to go public. And those are still several quarters out. And so what people are trying to do is get pieces of the AI trade and get a little AI pixie dust on stocks. And you'll start to see some of the beneficiaries there. Obviously, Snowflake has moved a lot around it. Salesforce is racing to make Agentforce, part of their offering, and has some real, possible tailwinds if they can cannibalize their own core markets with these disruptive tech. But what we're looking for on the private markets is these pure plays that are going to be the disruptors. And I think that's what public market investors are most excited for, is the second half of this year and going into early next year, as some of these companies start to cross over and can really be disruptive for the legacy providers of software.
Yo, what's up? All right, it is February 26, 2025. I guess 10, 15 more minutes until the next day. We're going to get to Thursday. But NVIDIA report earnings today, but nothing burger. Sorry, guys. Nothing decisive. I guess that's a good thing because, it could have been bad. Could have been bad reaction if the market was at a higher top, So let's look at what we got here today. So I said yesterday night, I was going to sell my SMCI, in the morning, right? So now it just pulled back into the end of the day. We ended around 50. But since NVIDIA reported earnings and it wasn't like amazing. Nvidia's like down 1.6%, 1.5%, 1.3% overnight right now. Yeah, it was up 2% before the conference call, but then after they started talking, it was finished. They went back down, so still nothing. But SMCI is down 5% overnight right now, and I don't know if this thing hits like 48, 45, I might get it again, but I'm more interested in MSTR. So as I said yesterday, I got a bunch of this one, right? So I'm using MSTX. MSTX, I'm using that guy. So not bad. So it was up, from the lows of yesterday, 10%. Not bad. Not and it was doing that while you see here, Bitcoin was crashing further down to 62%. So Bitcoin had a pretty nasty day today, down nearly like about 6 to 7%. And if you look at Litecoin's still trying to stay up. So today it was like up 8-9%, not bad at all. So something's happening for sure into Max Payne. I'm not really 100% gonna say like, hey, this thing can run all the way back up to 99 where the Max Payne is 99, 98, but it can roll up. So this would be a nice trade if it can get there by Friday. Now I'm guessing it's gonna depend a lot on the PCE number. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, MS. That's why I said sell in the morning, because like it was trying to go up to 59 in the morning for SMCI, and I mean pre-market, like very early pre-market, just when pre-market opened. So all people are still asleep, and from that moment I was just like, oof, yeah, that's probably it. That's probably as high as it's gonna go, because once the market opened, there ain't no buyers. Nobody's gonna be doing nothing until Nvidia comes out. And if Nvidia doesn't report well, which it reported okay, it's decent, but it's not great, right? So if let's say the Nasdaq was up here before Nvidia reported, guess what? We would have crashed even harder. Luckily, we were already crashing into it, so expectations were already lowered, and then we're right back the same level as when we had DeepSeek, and then when we had Trump tariffs and all this stuff happening around here, late January, early February, right? So we're at the same level for the Nasdaq. So nobody cares. It was good enough just to keep the market afloat. So we're just going to stay here for a while. That means all that's depending on how this thing moves is then going to be given by, I guess, PCE should not be anything of surprise. Okay. That's already known, because if you have the producer price index reported, the consumer price index supported, all these economists have mathematical models and they already can estimate what the PCE is going to look like. Sometimes you'll get a surprise. Very rare, but it did happen. It happened here in December 20th. I think so. This was just after Jerome Powell talked. And then Friday, December 20th, boom. It was a surprise read. It actually was lower, and then the market kind of got happy for a couple days into Christmas. And then once we came back from Christmas, nobody's trading, very light volume. It just collapsed, went right back under. And yeah, so you could have that happening again. You could have like, okay, we have these down days. PCE surprises lower on Friday morning, pumps it up for a few days into next week until we get some bad news from maybe ISM service number on Wednesday, or Friday when we get our payrolls number. Something comes in bad, and it's bad in a bad way, not bad in a good way. I mean, you want to have soft jobs numbers. You don't want to have you don't want to have soft jobs numbers, meaning like we're going into recession, because if that's happening, then yeah, everything's going down. Because if you look here in bond land's going up. Bonds are still going up. And we are now almost back to, let's see, TLT. All right, TLT, I'll use this chart then, the daily chart. Yeah, see, bonds are going up, and we're here at 92, right at this resistance area. Perfect. Now, if bonds keep going up and stocks don't go up with it, then yeah, that's bad. That means nobody believes that the economy is doing good. And nobody's going to buy any stock anymore. Because if you look at small caps is down at the lows, back at the lows of January 13th. So IWM's back there at 216, and then we have S&P 500 back down at 594. Okay, so it could probably go down to 584 if it's a bad number, or even lower. So if jobs report next week Friday comes in bad, then yeah, this will happen. It'll just collapse. This will collapse, IWM will collapse, and bonds will continue up. You don't want to see that. You definitely want to see bonds moving up because that's lower yields. But if it's going up for the wrong reasons, then you're just stealing everything. No. SMCI didn't have earnings yesterday. There was no earnings. So if you listened to what I said yesterday's stream, there was no earnings. All it had was like, ooh, it filed its homework late. Okay, so it had late filing. That's the whole reason SMCI was falling from last year. So it was falling from what, September, August, because it was going to be delisted from the Nasdaq for not filing with the SEC their homework, their accounting forms. They didn't file their 13, or what was it? Their 10Q. Yeah, their 10Q, something like that. That's what happened. So that's the whole reason SMCI. That's why I was trading SMCI, because everybody was thinking, oh, it's a scam company. This thing's gonna go bankrupt. They're lying about their numbers. They're cooking the books or whatever. I don't care. I don't care if they're cooking the books. This company is not going to go away. So that's the whole reason it started falling down here. Now, of course, probably, I'm guessing here it was just following the semiconductors, right, into August. And then from here, August forward, when it kept going lower and lower and lower, that was when all the shorts came in, because Hindenburg was reporting a short. Hindenburg is gone now. That company that was shorting the SMCI is gone. It went bankrupt or whatever. They left. Okay, whatever. So anyhow, but that's the whole reason this happened. So we just went backward. We just went back to the point where before all that stuff happened, right? You see, that's why it went to 66. This is the price where it was supposed to be at before all that news came up. Well, I'm sure people already knew this was coming out eventually, and the DeepSeek stuff didn't help. But that's why. There's an earnings icon, 25th. Yeah, you don't trust them, dude. Don't trust any earnings symbol anywhere. Don't trust any earnings symbol. So this one, yeah, don't trust it. There's no earnings. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. That ain't right. Don't be trusting like the trading view. Don't trust anybody's earnings. Like, if you want to trust earnings symbols, let me see. So SMCI reported earnings long time ago. Earnings date. Let's see. Oh man, I swear to God, I already saw their earnings a while ago. I have the old pictures too. You can go look back at my old presentations and shit, because I had the whole picture with SMCI earnings and blah blah blah. They go to their investor relations website. God damn. I gotta go back there. All right, blah blah blah. Okay, blah blah blah. Da 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 da. So this was from February 11th. Okay. Yada yada. So when did you do your earnings call? This was February 11th. Yeah, February 11th. So that's it. Here it is. That's it. That was the news detail. That's it. Don't assume anything's synced with anybody, man. Especially earnings. Earnings is whatever people estimate earnings dates to be, and that's not reliable. If some H-1B visa guy didn't double check something, that's what happens. That's the end of it. This is not, this is something done manually. It's not automatic. There you go. So you can go to that link. It was February 11th. So this was long ago, man. Way done. So that's it. If I knew earnings was gonna come out, whatever, I wouldn't have bought like SMCI yesterday. I just got lucky. I guess got lucky. They decided to turn in their homework that day. They could decide to turn on their homework today or the day before or whatever. Heck do I know? I wasn't keeping track of that. But yeah. So if you care, they got their 10Q and whatever the heck they have here. This is where it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it does have a big effect on Nvidia, and Nvidia has a big effect on SMCI. So they both tied together. That's their number one customer, is with Nvidia's from SMCI and SMCI with Nvidia. So people use both of those guys to tell and figure out what the other guy's earnings is. So if SMCI is before Nvidia, then they'll use SMCI earnings to figure out what Nvidia is going to say. And then whatever Nvidia is going to say about the future, they'll try to tie it to what SMCI is going to say for the next quarter over. That's how it works. Yeah. So yeah, you can do it that way. But if you're a real analyst, you just got people on the ground sniffing for evidence, and they call that channel check. Yeah. All right. So let's see here. So February 26th, SMCI is in compliance with the NASDAQ filing requirements. So blah, 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 blah. They received notification from NASDAQ indicating it now complies with NASDAQ listing rule 5250C1, which requires timely filing of reports with the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the matter is now closed. Okay, good job. So you turn in your homework. Don't have to worry about the filing issues. And let's see. If you care, and if you're a fundamental guy, you can go read their 10K and 10Q filings, and you can go and if you're an accountant, you can go through there and see if there's any irregularities and fraud or whatever the heck people try to figure out. That's what Martin Shkreli would do. He would just open all that stuff up, put in the spreadsheet, try to figure out, if he can figure out some hidden information that no one else can see. I don't care. The stock popped 40, 30, 40, 50%. I sell, I'm done. I don't need to stick around and find out what the heck you guys think about it. I'm finished. So now the important thing is tomorrow, let's see if SMCI gets to 45 or whatever the heck. Oh man, it's already midnight. They already reset the whole thing. That's why I hate about that Robinhood. Yeah. So it's already midnight. So they're resetting everything. Okay. All right. Okay. Wait for that reset to be over and then we'll figure it out. All right. Let's go back to the chart then. While Robinhood's doing that. Okay, let's see what else. IONQ is down. So let's see that one. Yeah, so it's down after market. I think it was going to be down 11%. So yes, it's getting out. It's going to get out of this box. So goodbye. I guess this stock is going to go bye-bye now. I think it's completed its distribution here, so it's done. It's not going to go back up, I guess. So quantum computing, I guess, is over. See what else? Lunar. So in Intuitive Machines, it launched its rocket. So I think this stock will probably be dependent on if the satellite, not satellite, I mean the lander. So their lunar lander, they put it on the rocket. It's going to the moon right now. Last time they did this, it landed, but then it fell over. So their lunar lander fell over and the stock went down. So this time, if the lander lands upright, maybe this one will go up to $20. I don't know if you want to risk it, you want to gamble on this guy, but go ahead. So that's another one that you might consider. Mara was up like 10%, something like that. So it looks like it's not going to 8. So I was talking about this like yesterday or something. I said like if this thing started falling down and go towards 8, I would buy it again. As long as Bitcoin is down and suppressed as well, but guess not. Guess we're not gonna get that. So I'll keep waiting and see if it comes down to 8 sometime later. Snow is up 9%, something like that. So there's a lot of software, these software companies. Snow and then Lemonade too. Lemonade was supposed to go down, but it recovered the whole day. So that's a good sign. I like it like that. When you see a reaction from earnings, it goes down and it comes back up like this. That's great. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. So I think there's going to be a group of software companies that I'll be interested in. So LMND Lemonade is going to be one of them. Asana is another one. Okay, I mentioned that one before. So let's look at this chart here on the weekly, right? Look at the weekly chart here. So it's like this. It has this huge base. You see how flat it is from 2022? Only recently, last year, right? In October, it started moving up. Now, Asana, same thing, right? So ASAN, look at that. Similar shape. And then Twilio, so TWLO. Pretty similar looking shape. So these guys used to be big stars during the COVID era. Sadly, Jerome Powell is not, lowering interest rates. But if the economy is about to take a nosedive, and maybe Jerome Powell will change his tune, in a quarter or two. So these stocks might be okay to try to get into for later this year. I mean, I'm not big on software companies just because I think this is bad since they're trying to recover when the cycles are going down. And I'll show you right here what I'm talking about. So I would be a lot more bullish on software companies because to me, hardware AI was the first to move up last year, right? Semiconductors moved up for the last year and a half, I guess you can say. And then now it's software turn, right? You saw Palantir move up. That was one of them. So I expect a lot of other like software companies like Asana, like Snowflake, like all these guys to move up because they got AI software. So I think they would easily capture, especially now we got the DeepSeek stuff. That helps lower the cost of AI. So if it's cheaper to use AI, the software company can make more money, right? Their margins aren't being squeezed by costs now. So that's why it's like, oh, it should be easy for these companies to make tons of money. So anyway, I'll show you here what I mean with the cycles I'm talking about. Okay, so Robinhood finished resetting. So IONQ, quantum computing, down 10.56%. SMCI down 5.26% to be at 48. Snowflake up 181. So that's up 9.36%. NVIDIA's down 1.20%. So let's look at the software. So XLC communication, that's one piece of software, communication services. So sort of like that. It's going to go down here, see, into May right now. And if you look at a weekly cycle chart, you can see like it's pretty much all of them are going to go down into probably another 3-4 years from here. So we are about to start a downward trajectory either late this year or probably early next year. So sometime around there. So this is not a great time to be thinking about getting the software, because if software is about to go up, it's only going to get a few chances, probably from May to August, move up, and then one more from December to February next year. So December this year into February next year. And then after that, it's probably over. There's no more chances for it to go down. This is probably going to be two more quarters, maybe, so of it that will move up, and then from there it'll go down, That's it. XLY discretionary, yeah, you see it's going to go up probably in May. So let's see if that aligns with the XLC communications May. So May is when we'll start moving back up. So we're going to start moving down now. So the stock market should be going down for most sectors. ARK, so ARKK, Kathy Wood's favorite stuff. So that means Tesla, Palantir, all the risky little companies she likes to get into, high growth companies, essentially. They're going to move down until, May. So that lines up as well. Small caps looks like it should go up. It should be done going down and should start going up pretty shortly in March. So you might see some pockets of stocks that might buck the trend, but this might conflict with all the large and mid caps that are going down. And then we have biotech, March. So that's why I was looking at Moderna. Moderna might be a good time to buy. Then KWeb, Chinese stocks, we're going to hit a peak maybe sometime mid-March, but the peak might come soon, maybe over the weekend when they get some economic report from China. It will probably be the last move up, or maybe it'll be the start of the move down. So we're pretty close. We're getting pretty close here. There's not much room left for Chinese stocks. I think two big Chinese stocks moved up today. Oh, not two big ones, but two of them that I mentioned before, right? The Robinhood equivalent. So I'll mention them now. And you can see that. I'll mention those two. Yeah, I should mention those two before I forget. Because these two are my favorites too. FUTU. So Futu. Okay, so this is like a Coinbase of China, and Futu, and the other one was, what was it? TIGR, Up FinTech. Yeah, TIGR. These two, great, perfect. So they were trying to recover today, but I don't know how much higher they can go. They'll probably hit a limit pretty soon. And Xiaomi again went up. It was like up maybe 7% today at the peak. But not bad, It's still going up. So I'm probably just gonna dump it soon. Yeah, I think this is enough for me. I don't want to get too greedy with this guy, but the cycles say China still has a chance to keep going up. So I don't know. It might not stop. Yeah, I'm just looking at all these charts. Yeah, KC still stuck, huh? Yeah, KC hasn't moved up the couple days. I don't know how much higher it can go, because technically, it should want to get to 35 or 40. I mean, this thing just defies gravity. But earnings is around the corner. I mean, okay, according to TradingView, it says March 20th. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, we still got time then. I guess yeah, Casey could still go up to 40 before earnings. Yeah, that'll be great. Great stuff there. So China's really the big time winner. And Mexico went up today too. So even with all the tariff stuff, look at it. It's still holding on. It hasn't broke back down to 47 for EWW. So if that's the case and it can get up to back to 52, then or 53, then yeah, I think Mex can easily get to 20. You know, so MEXX, the 3X ETFW, yeah. Yeah, it's a good chance to keep going up. Let's see. BKV, did it have earnings? Oh, yeah, this thing had earnings today. Okay. Maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, this is an IPO. That's the problem with these things. There's no history on this chart. I mean, if it gets down to 20, I might buy it because I kind of wanted to see how it did for a couple of quarters before I decided if I wanted to get into BKV. BKV is like the utility, so it has natural gas, and I don't think it has nuclear. I think it's just natural gas utility in Texas, and it just had an IPO last year in September, so it's been doing okay, but you know, it's an IPO, so you can't do much. VST will report earnings tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna see how that one goes. But if this is over, like this whole thing is like a distribution and this thing's about to break, then yeah, it should land to 110, and that's the end of it. This thing will finally lose its momentum and has to pull back, and maybe then you can see if you can buy it later in the year. But for now, I think yeah, that could be it. But that's true for a lot of uranium stocks. Let's see, and see what else. NCLH cruise line stocks. Cruise liners do pretty good, but this might be the end of this one too. Because Carnival Cruise Line, let's see how that one went. Yeah, they're similar, pretty similar. So I don't know. I don't know if they're really ready to move up. You know, this one hasn't recovered from its COVID times. So let's see, Carnival. Yeah, Carnival also hasn't really recovered from this. Yeah, I don't know. Now there was another earnings today. Advanced Auto Parts. You can see, like, look at that. Terrible. It's down 17%, nearly pre-market. So it ended the day, yeah, like that. Yeah, that's terrible, man. 17.83%. So if you look at AutoZone and O'Reilly, look at that. Look at the difference. So even in the same industry, right? You think like they would match, but O'Reilly, so AZO is AutoZone, and O'Reilly up here, yeah, O'Reilly is the best one. Like, if you got O'Reilly from COVID, 259 to 1,200. So yeah, this is one of my favorite little stocks. People really don't look at the auto parts, you know. These guys went really well, 400%. Very good for an auto parts stock over 4 years. Really not bad at all. I mean, it's not a Carvana, but hey, you know, it's great. And then you got the Celsius, like energy drink CEL. Right. So it had a recovery pop on earn down into this guy. I think the damage of this is pretty bad. So I don't think it's ever gonna have the good old days of moving up from $1 to this 36. So that's insane. I don't think it's gonna repeat that, honestly. Yeah. So that's about that one. Okay, what else? What else? May, Asan, Twilio, Lunar, IonQ, Mara. Okay, good. I covered everything. All right. So I think there were some stocks that were trying to move up today, I noticed. HIMS tried to go up and then came back down, so that didn't work out. Let's see what else. I saw the nuclear stocks. Yeah, they're trying their best. Like you see this LEU here off the weekly. What 18? Yeah, VRT. Let's see how this one. No, VRT screwed up. Too screwed up. LTBR probably better. Yeah. Okay, it's trying. NNE. Ugh, man, I don't know. Damn, it's tough. I don't know because I think the next 2 weeks are going to be really hard to say you can safely buy something and think it'll go up by April. I would probably rather be patient. But if you are interested in the quick trading and you believe that PCE on Friday is going to be good, actually tomorrow there's going to be GDP report. It's going to be a second estimate of Q4. I don't think anything's going to happen there, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe Nvidia stock will do something crazy tomorrow. Maybe it'll crash and there'll be a good price to buy, and you can buy it before PCE. But I wouldn't risk it. DNA's chart is terrible now. It failed here. Now it's right back at 8. Oh, so after earnings, it's like, you really ruined it. So this is like something when it does something like this, you have to wait. It's gonna like just stay stuck. It's gonna stay stuck between 10 and 8. It's gonna keep doing that, and then if we know that the market's gonna crash, then don't be surprised if this gets back to 6, like for a short while before rallying back up. That'll be a best time to buy DNA or something like that. So watch a lot of stocks that have this, like, oh, it was about to break out and then failed. Then okay, just keep it on the watch list, see what happens. There's probably other ones. Yeah, Peloton was another one like that. It's like this thing looked like it was ready to go and it failed. So I compared Peloton, PTON, to ASTS because they're similar, very similar, right? You had this kind of creek looking thing here. See that? And then you bounce up above it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And it's not big volume, but it's fairly good volume. I mean, it would be better if it had this kind of volume, then I would believe that it can hold this and fly up. So who knows? This thing is still on play. Peloton kind of looks like it's over. It failed doing that. But ASTS looks better. So yeah, pay attention. Pay attention to these. Sound will have earnings after the Thursday close. Okay, Sound will have. So I don't know if this thing is a good play to do because now it's already lost a lot from 23 down to 8. Maybe it's worth the risk, if you want to play earnings, but then I think you're better off learning to use options to do that than buying shares. Anyway, okay. So tomorrow, MSTR. The other thing I'm going to look tomorrow is Tesla. Tesla failed to hold, okay, today. So it's all the way back to this 40 weekly moving average. That's not good at all. It looks terrible now. It looks completely terrible. Unless it ends the week with a huge rally. We'll see if that happens because now it's at this 290 area. And then once it fails, it's just going to go to 283 or maybe even lower. So I don't like that. I'll have to see if I want to buy more tomorrow. See if that's worth it. But yeah, it had a bad day. I don't think there was no buyers coming in. Yeah, I think sometime around like 1 hour. I think within 1 hour after the open, it had this huge red candle. I don't know why, but for some reason, it was just a huge bar that came out of nowhere and just completely shoved it down. Once it shoved it down, it could never crawl out of it. And then by the time the afternoon hit, the whole index started moving down because if you look at the QQQ, it just decided, okay, this is as high as we go. We don't want to hold anything before Nvidia, so sell off for the rest of the afternoon. You see that? And that was it. That was the end of it. So, and you can see this red bar here too, like 15:20 London time, right? So that was an hour in after the market opened at 9:30 Eastern. That Tesla Like, yeah, that red bar coincided at that same time. I don't know where that came from. Somebody's talk or something. I didn't see nothing. So in the news anyway, that made any sense for that. So it could just be algorithms. Somebody really wanted to shove Tesla cheaper. Yeah, so really they really want this to go to 280. That's my bet. So if it goes down to 280, okay. I'll watch. I'll pay attention to see if I can buy it. I think Root. So if you guys are into meme stocks, Root is up 20% after hours of reported earnings. I have no clue what it's going to do tomorrow. It's a crazy stock, makes no sense. It's just a meme stock. Good luck. It's for gamblers. I think if you notice the way it moves, it's just like sideways, sideways. Next earnings up, sideways. So it's essentially only for people that play the earnings, because between the earnings it does nothing. It's completely random. So that's why I don't play it. I don't want to play earnings. I want to play the stock in between the earnings. I don't want to get surprised and have earnings and it just starts flying up or crashing down, and I don't have time to deal with this. So, but yeah, it's going to be up 20% pre-market at least. So you can watch and pay attention if you feel like it, because you never know. It could be like this thing. It could go on the open and it could go up 500% in the coming days, right? Yeah, you never know. It could be like, oh, it's up 20% today, and then the next day it's up another 20, another 20, another 20, another 20, and then, yeah, all right. Have fun with that. So Elon spoke at Trump's cabinet meeting today. Maybe that was it. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. It could be anything. The news will try to figure out, whoa, what was it? What was that? What was that? And it could be completely nonsense. I think that's what it is. A lot of times the news will try to find a reason for something to happen, and they weren't the cause of it, or nothing was the cause of it, actually. And it was just an algorithm doing something. Because we are heading close into Friday, and we pass NVIDIA. We'll have to see. All that will matter more and more as we come along, and that's about it. Yeah. So I think I covered everything I needed to cover. Bitcoin's about to go. Okay, good. And I'll read this little thing, do the lunar story for you. So LUNR tomorrow. So pay attention to that one. I don't know if you want to gamble on that guy, but yeah, I might as well talk about it. Okay, here we are. Yeah, Intuitive Machines launches to Moon after historic first mission. Intuitive Machines to look for resources in second mission. Space firm partnering with Nokia for Moon Cell Network. All right, flat earthers, good luck with this one. Okay, so Intuitive Machines Incorporated, which made history with its moon landing last year, blasted off Wednesday on a second mission that aims to find resources and test cellular technology on the lunar surface. The lander, called Athena, lifted off at 7:17 p.m. local time from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on board a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The craft is expected to attempt its moon landing in approximately 8 days. So there we go. You got 8 days. 8 days to decide if you want to trade LUNR. Maybe LUNR will just keep going up for the next week, and then just before the time we find out if it landed upright, you just sell. So you got 8 days to trade LUNR. All right. So I'm giving you that. So if the PCE does well, the economy doesn't looks good with the next pieces of data that comes out from Friday, and then on Monday with ISM manufacturing, and Wednesday ISM services, and then just before Friday, before the big payrolls number, and before you find out if Lunar landed upright, you sell. So maybe LUNR will go up in the next several trading days. Right? So That's a good. So I'm just putting it out there because I think the chart still looks good. ASTS still looks good. So a lot of these, so even though like quantum computing might look bad right now, at least something looks good. So at least you can try to chase this one. Anyway, I'll just give you the article here if you want to read the rest of it. Yeah, very nice. And then we can look at Root. Let's see what Root's doing. Root. Oh, Nvidia's going up 0.91%. So maybe the Europeans are buying Nvidia up. I don't think the European market's open yet. It might be open in another hour or so. Maybe it's European pre-market right now. Yeah, Root is up 21.57%, $120. Good luck to you. Maybe this thing will also go up in the next 8 days. Right, so there's a lot of stocks I gotta pay attention to now. So I'll see if I want to buy Supermicro again tomorrow, or I'm gonna buy more MSTR. MSTR looking good, looking good. So I'm gonna show the chart on MSTR again. Okay. Okay, yeah, it's up 2% overnight. That's not bad. And then let's share the screen here. And then I'll go for the night. All right, let's go. MSTR. Yeah, I'll do Snowflake here. I'll put Snowflake up here. Snowflake, I'll watch tomorrow, see what happens. Let's pay attention to. And then if I remind you guys, MSTR, you see this? So I want to see if it can try and fight into 280 again. If it can survive up here tomorrow and stay strong, then there's a good chance on Friday, by the time we get into max pain. So max pain is around London time. So maybe 3 hours after midnight Eastern, I think. Something like that. It's around like late night Eastern time. So Friday morning for you guys. That's when all the options expire for crypto, for Bitcoin and Ethereum mainly. And I think, yeah, this thing could try to get to 320 by Friday if PCE goes well. If everything goes well, this will be a great trade, and I'll get out by then because I bought a ton of it. I bought a ton of this thing. I said, well, I'm gonna buy the knife here. I'm gonna catch the knife here because this could be a 30% move back up here, and if you're using MSTX, that's a 60% move. I might buy a ton more tomorrow. Shoot, man. Let's see. Let's say so it's 60% move. So probably about 35. So MSTX might get to 35 from 21 at the low. It's at 25 right now. So 10 more bucks to go to get to 35, maybe even 40 if it's extreme violent move back up. And then you can decide if you want to short it again next week. Okay? That's when I would think about shorting. So because Bitcoin, I believe, before we get to the next move down, I mean, I don't think it's going to go straight to 60 from here. No, it's going to fight. There's going to be a fight now. There's going to be someone willing to buy here and try to push it up to 99 before like the max pain. And when it gets into this area, see if how long it lingers next week. If this thing can fight up to 108, okay, that's cool. Because then I'll just keep on holding some leftover MSTX or whatever. But by then, if it struggles too much here, then that means like by the time we get to the Ides of March, it'll roll over again. And this time it's not even going to hold. It's just going to go straight down to 70s or 60s. Okay. So that's what I would expect. If it's a violent move from the stock market too. You'll notice too with the yen. So if you look at the yen, actually, how is the yen doing? Okay, it's still holding here. Okay, watch this one. Yen's at 149 ish. So 149 for a US dollar here. 149 yen for a US dollar. Let's watch this one. Dixie. Okay, 106 still. All right. Yeah, and then we got Snow. Snow, I'm going to talk about right now because I'm going to play a video. This is going to be the last video to play tonight. And they're going to talk about AI. So Snow, weekly chart. You got this thing. Yeah, so it's similar to a lot of the other AI, or not AI, but software company stocks. This was like $400. So it IPO'd. Oh, this was a recent IPO from COVID. All right, $400 went down to 100 something to 166. All right. Yeah, I'll watch this one too. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Let's get a look at Snowflake and Salesforce. Those shares moving in opposite directions, big moves in opposite directions. After Salesforce revenue and revenue guidance came in lower than expected, Snowflake shares, those are up thanks to a huge earnings beat. Joining us now is Brent Thill from Jefferies. He has a buy rating on both names. And Brent, I'm going to start by kicking it off with Snowflake, which is up about 11% right now because you had a big beat on top and bottom line. It looks like Q4 product revenue was better than expected as well. And then, of course, they've announced this expanded partnership with Microsoft to add access to OpenAI. How does it now position Snowflake, especially given the fact that coming into this report, there was still a lot of question marks about valuation and whether they could continue to keep growing?
Yeah, it was a good report. The guidance is the most important. There were a fear that they were going to guide to low 20s. They guided to 24, 8% margin. This is the single biggest operating margin expansion story in large cap software. The margins at 8 should be 30 over the next few years. They are an AI play. They're an infrastructure play. They're embedded in many of the top AI companies, helping them make better decisions about who their customers are. So we think Sridhar, the new CEO who came in a year ago, has made a big impact on product, and they were lagging against their competitor Databricks. They've improved their product quality. They've improved their execution. Last year was a really tough year, and we said in our playbook that in 2025, Snowflake's our recovery story that we think is on a better trajectory, and we think the results further confirm that they're on this trajectory path.
Okay.
If you like data and you like AI, this is a good story. It does not trade at Palantir's lofty multiple. It's still an expensive multiple, but we think there's still upside in the multiple.
Okay.
And we think again, there's still a lot of upside ahead.
What about Salesforce then? I think you got to buy on that a pretty healthy price target above where it's trading right now. Stephanie Link just made the case, hey, based on the way revenue is growing, based on these results, it might be tough for it to justify that. Anything in this report give you pause?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think single-digit growth, the street's hoping they can get back to double-digit growth with AI and Agent Force. Remember, they just hired Robin as a CFO, and anytime a new CFO comes in, we think the guidance is going to be conservative. It makes sense. We think, again, Agent Force is super early. Their days of AI are only months in. They launched this product at the end of October, so it's only a few months in, and that's only going to build. So we think, again, this result wasn't phenomenal. Snowflake was way better. And many investors were already positioned long Salesforce. So the element of surprise wasn't here. That the numbers were fine. They weren't great. So the element of surprise wasn't here. That the numbers were fine. They weren't great.
Okay.
There's a little bit of margin improvement, but again, nothing too exciting. No big fireworks.
All right. Yeah, Snowflake. I'll watch that one. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at the whole S&P right now. So it looks like we got one big red candle from last week. I'm not sure how this candle is going to end up. We're going to have to wait for Friday's results, right, from the PCE to see how that shakes out, because Nvidia is not going to help us. Nvidia is not going to help us. And next week we'll have AVGO, Broadcom, and Marvell. So MRVL, the last two major AI semiconductor companies reports. And we'll also have Target. So I don't know how Target will say, and that might affect things because Walmart had some nasty things to say. Going to see how Target says the consumer is, because they target different levels of people, right, in America. So that might sway Wall Street again. So next week, yeah, we're going to have a bumpy ride with those three earnings alongside some ISM reports, and the final big boss is payrolls on Friday next week. If Nvidia did well today, then we wouldn't have to worry about any of those things. But because it was a so-so report, it was okay. It was good in the sense that it was okay, not good enough to say, oh, S&P 500 can go back to 610, right? Nope, that's not that good. So that's the problem. All right, so let me play this from little video from the Wyckoff guys, see what they think. What they think from yesterday. What do they think?
I'm seeing three changes of behavior within one large structure. So again, we experienced something like that. And I would say that here, when supply increased, demand has come in and increased almost immediately. Here, it's taken time. It's not as an aggressive of the demand pickup as we have seen, let's say, like somewhere here, or even here. The rate with which the price recovers so far is maybe not that impressive. This could be potentially weaker than this, right? Because this was weaker, then it became stronger, and now it becomes weaker again. So with that, another scenario is, could we potentially try to rally and then actually start going down immediately?
Uh-oh. Is that what's gonna happen? Oh
Going
man. So
down
he's talking about S&P 500 here. Oh man. Oh man. If that's just gonna happen, man. Oh, fuck. I don't got time for this shit. So yeah, it's gonna be really important, that PCE number. And then you got the ISM numbers, and then you got Marvell, Broadcom, Target. Oh, and then payrolls. So Nvidia wasn't enough to help you. I don't know if PCE will be enough to help you. Then it's going to repeat again next week, where you're going to have to wait for multiple things to decide where the market's going to go into the Ides of March. Because the Ides of March, we will have Bank of Japan reports on the 10th, I believe, on that week. Okay, so the Monday of that week. And then we move on. And I don't know what's going to happen then, because I think most of the major economic stuff will be out. We're going to have to get new inflation numbers probably Wednesday, the 12th. And then we repeat again going into the third week, which will mean we'll have to have Jerome Powell on the 19th. We have options expiration going to the 21st of March. Oh, boy. Big pain. So, you see, everything goes fast. That's why when you make your money, you got to make it quickly. When you don't have a trend, because we are trendless, right? If you see this, we have been going sideways for nearly 3 months now since Jerome Powell opened his fat mouth. We're stuck in this range. We have no trend. We're all waiting for Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, battery died. But yeah, I said like the trend's over. That was, I mean, we're all waiting for the trend to break out. Which direction, up or down, we still haven't figured out, right? My feeling is it has to go up first before breaking down. I think it will break down, but it needs to go up a bit. Now, if it just rolls over like he said it was, very disappointing, because that means it might not be as strong of a rollover as I would expect. I would rather like it to have a failed out, you know? That means it'll be a stronger move down. Then when you short, you'll have a big range. You'll have a nice 15 to 20% correction type move from the top. That would be ideal. Very ideal, you know? Because I don't think any of the big institutions, they don't want to buy at any of the prices we see now. If you see Tesla, you see it, right? We got to get to 280. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I don't know if anything interesting in the morning will happen, because it's just GDP stuff. Like maybe some of the stocks in pre-market might be interesting to trade. Maybe I'll show up for a little short while to say like, oh, I'm looking at this one, but nah, yeah, it's almost 2 more days and we're gonna be done with Black History Month, and we'll have a new moon on Friday. So new moon, if you believe in astrology, that'll be good. So I'll see you then.
Feel like I should go. Feel like I should go. Feel like I should go.